Welcome to Table Talk, where Fumi is with me again, and we're so blessed to have Steve and Flowery with us today. And our topic today is leadership. That's what we're going to be talking about, leadership in all terms of the things. So I want to begin by just pointing out the fact that every organisation needs some kind of leadership. You know, if you've got a boss who's in charge of 2 people or 100 people, you need some kind of leadership. And without leadership, things are going to fall down and go pear-shaped rather quickly. So it's very important that people recognise that. And I think we're living in a society today where people don't even recognise the leadership. You know, and employment is another example where as long as I get my paycheck at the end of the week, then happy days. They don't see what's going on behind the scenes, and they don't see all the technical stuff that's going on to make the process work. So, Fumi, I'll come to you first. What do you?
It reminds me of the book of Judges in the Bible, where it says that there was no king and everybody did what was right in their own eyes.
Yes.
And if that happens, then you just end up with chaos, because everybody has their own ideas of how things should work and how things should be and when things should be done. And I think if you have a good leader, a good person, somebody who has good organizational skills and leadership skills, then it actually helps the whole system to work very well. Very, very important.
Yeah, so even if you think about the home, for example, you know, you've got the leadership of the parents there with the children, and without that, it would just be chaos, like the days of the Judges, you know, but the kids would do whatever they want, whenever they want.
Yes.
And
they'll probably love it.
and they'd probably love it, yeah, to a degree. They would love that. So, Flowery, you're really good at organising. I've known you for a number of years now, and if you stand out for anything, it's definitely organisation. One perfect example of that is when Fumi and I visited a couple of years ago, and you organised a wedding for us, a wedding ceremony. I mean, that was just phenomenal, and an organisation that must have took was great. So
great fun.
yeah. So how do you go? How do you think that way, organisation? Because not everybody thinks in the same.
We have to have an idea. You came to idea. We were going to surprise for me, and we had a concept, and from the concept you work out a timeline. But the most important thing is involving other people and selecting them and getting them to participate depending on their skill level. Fumi's one of the finest cooks around. I would be calling on Fumi. Somebody else wants to do the flowers, and somebody else, I had the guys out putting up wreaths. So everybody has a place. Everybody feels like a part, and then the whole thing comes together, and you look great, but they look great. It's their project, it's their event, and lots of prayer, and that always kind of covers the whole thing. Those are the arms that go around any project, anything you ever do.
So listen to what Flowery says. You mentioned something really important there, that you get other people involved and make them feel a part of it. So, Steve, your background is pharmacy, like Fumi's was,
Yes.
and even where you worked, there must have been an element of that.
There was yes, it was a major corporation, and so there was a president and a board of directors, and then middle level managers, and then worker bees, and on down the line. You had a chart. You knew who was supposed to do what.
Yeah.
It was very technical and all, and so you knew who you reported to, and they knew whether you did your job or didn't do your job. The church is a volunteer organization, so it operates a little differently, but you have that same general framework.
And it's, I guess it's making people feel appreciated as well, isn't it?
And a part.
And
Yes.
a part of something bigger than they actually are. And one thing I also think is important is, although you're the organiser and you're putting all these things together, it's not a case of, well, I'm better than you are. It's equal value. So with your job, for example, whether you're the top ranking gun or the one who's just putting medicine out on the shelves and things, is just as important as everybody.
It is. The organization doesn't function without every part contributing to it, and the way that you develop all of that, I think, is just you have a smart leader, and then that smart leader has advisors that are smart and talented in many ways, and then usually by committee, you bounce things off of each other and find ways to do things in a better way.
So as a leader,
Reevaluate.
so as a leader, you have to have good communication skills. You have
Right,
to be able to listen
you do.
and also be able to take good points from different places and see the bigger picture. And even if everybody doesn't see the big picture, you as the leader has to see the big picture and not sell it, but show that to others so that they can see their importance in that picture.
Right, the value of
Yeah.
the program and their value to the program. The other thing, of course, is finding people that have the skills that, for the organization of the wedding. Flowery picked people that could do what needed to be done. For a business or a volunteer organization or whatever it is, you have to identify people that have skills and have a passion for using that skill for the betterment of the organization.
Let me try and use a metaphor for a second, and again I'm going to come back to you for this. You're an artist, you love art, and I'm thinking in my head, okay, that if I see a picture, a painting, that painting is made up of various colours. Now, you would know better than anybody if you were to remove some colours from a painting, it just wouldn't look complete. So the point I'm trying to get at here is that every colour matters, and you're the one as the organiser who sees the big picture, but every colour needs to know its place. This is what I'm doing and this is my part, because without me then that picture is going to be incomplete. Would that be a...
I'd like to look at it a little bit differently,
Yeah.
being an artist,
Yeah.
a little bit differently. Every part has its place, but sometimes you change and you substitute and you reorganize. You do that in your art, you do it in life, you do it in any, whether it's a conference or a meeting or an event like a wedding or whatever. You reevaluate and reassign, and this person's sitting over here not doing anything, and you know they need to be doing so. So you find a skill that they've never used before, and all of a sudden they blossom. I know I'm getting off track, but
No,
in a painting, you have a set group of colors you are thinking about. But what if I throw a fuchsia in instead of a pink? What happens? What if I throw a lime fluorescent green in instead of a dark green? What happens? The same thing in leadership, is you're always looking to pull and involve those people that are around you, because they all have gifts, and most of the time they don't even know it.
I think of how God is sort of pictured as the potter, and we are the clay. And we in the UK there's a programme called the Great British Throwdown, I think it is.
Yes.
And it's where
Yes.
people make things from clay.
Yes.
And it's unbelievable. And I've seen this time and time again where somebody makes something and you're looking at it and you think, that is absolutely stunning. And the next thing you do, they squash it down.
Yes.
I'm like, what are you doing? That was a masterpiece.
Best way to learn.
But in their mind, they're saying, I could do better.
Yeah.
And they're trying to make something better. And I think sometimes God does that with our lives. We need a bit of a squeeze so He can make us look more and more like Jesus type thing. But that's important for what you're saying there, that some things work, some things don't, some things will enhance it, and some things will maybe make it worse type thing. But everything has to have its place in there. So I want to come back to Steve now and talk about eldership, leadership within a congregation. So if you want to tell us a little bit about the Red Mark congregation, the elders, and your role and all of that.
Okay. Yeah, we have a total of 8 elders. All are experienced men in teaching the Bible, knowing the Bible. We all have different organizational skills. And because of that, what we've done, each elder is primarily responsible for one area of work in the church. We have a banker that works on finances. We have a IBM program manager who is great on organization of different projects and things. We have other men that have other skills along the way, but we take those strengths and we all use them together. And when we make decisions as a group, as one. We feel like it's very important for the eldership to be united always. And you know, if something comes to a vote and it's 6-2, when we announce the decision to the congregation, it's just a decision from the elders. We don't say it's a 6-2 decision. So we are united, and those other 2 that may have lost on this particular vote, if it came to that, have all agreed that if this is the majority decision, we will not undermine it. So we support each other in that way. So that's how we kind of function there. We just call on the strengths of the different elders to oversee, to shepherd the congregation. And then from that point, we have deacons that we've selected for particular jobs. And they have their areas of work, and we give them a budget at the first of the year, and we trust them to use that budget for whatever functions they have outlined for their duties for that year. We don't do their job for them. We give that job to the deacons, and we trust them to do that. We make sure it goes okay, everything's in order, but we let them do the work, do that job.
Well, I've often heard it said that the elders are the ones that are in charge of the spiritual welfare of the congregation,
Right.
whereas the deacons are the arms and the legs of the elders.
Yeah, and that's our goal at Red Bank, is to make it so. We would much rather be counseling people that need counseling, comforting people that need comforting, making decisions about teaching, how to direct the ministers and the Sunday school classes and so forth. So we would much rather be dealing with those kinds of issues than whether we're going to have blue paint on the wall or red paint on the wall.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our goal. But we have a number. What we do is we have what we call a talent survey that we give to every member of the church to see what their area of interest is, to see what their talents and skills are. And we also give them the option to list things that they're not good at yet, but would like to be and would like to learn how to do certain things. And so we keep records of that in our computer database. And so if I need somebody, say, that's interested in going on a mission trip, I can do a printout of the database and pick out people that are interested in going on a mission trip. If the church needs a classroom painted, I've got a list of people that are willing to do painting work or whatever the job is. But that's part of just working through
So the whole idea is to get like you were saying, your illustration with the painting and things. The whole idea is to make everybody feel appreciated and feel a part of the one body.
Absolutely, and we want everybody plugged in, involved, and working for the glory of God. And if you're driving nails, drive the nails for the glory of God.
No.
If you're in somebody's home teaching a Bible study, do that for the glory of God. And you have to identify people that have those skills and then get them operational there.
Do you have people that say, I don't know what I'm good at, I don't know what my talents are? What do you say to them if you come across them?
That hasn't come up too often.
Excuse me, because the sheet that you handed out doesn't just have, can you hammer? It's got anything you're interested in. It is a pervasive list, and it gives the opportunity for anything you even.
Yeah.
And I just want to point out at this time when you're talking about using deacons, using the elders and so forth, there are many people that want to give, but they don't have the purses to give.
Yeah.
And so if you make sure they know the smallest gift, and I've been there, your time is a gift,
Yes.
and your love and your effort.
Yes.
And for people to realize that that is something they can do and give means the world.
Yeah, and we've made ministries that have a very positive impact on church members as well as outsiders, and it is also the ministry I'm thinking about is our card ministry. We have a card writing ministry, and we have people, members that have been in the church and active all of their lives, and now they're elderly and have health issues and can't do things. Well, they are willing to and want to write cards to people and encourage other people. So that gets them involved in a way that they can physically deal with. Whereas they might not be able to cook dinner and take it to a new mom, or they can't go to the hospital and sit with somebody that's ill in the hospital all night long, things like that. But the main thing we look for in our involvement program is finding people that have a skill or want to acquire a skill, and something that they are passionate about. We had a lady come to us last year that wanted to start a particular program, and she convinced us that it was a program we'd never thought about doing. But she convinced us that she had a true passion and a skill for it, and so we've approved it. We gave her a budget and let her work with it. But
So let me, in any organisation, any leadership role comes with a whole bunch of responsibilities and things, and that's emphasised within the Lord's body with looking after people's spiritual will. You're looking after their soul, basically,
yes.
and that's a huge responsibility. I would also imagine that you have a lot of issues, maybe is the word, where you have to, it's really delicate situations and challenging, maybe somebody's rebelling or whatever like that, and those must be quite challenging.
Those are difficult. They really are. There's people that are mad at God and wanting to leave the church. One of the not common things, but one of the things that is very painful to the whole church is there's adultery that's committed in a marriage and dealing with rebuilding that marriage. Those are very tough things, and we've had thieves come to us and admit to being thieves and want to make restitution and so forth. Pornography is an issue that's hard for people to admit, but we've had people come and admit to problems with pornography, and then we will. Within our eldership skill sets, we help counsel people on all those things, but we also have external counselors that we've made contact with to help with problems that are beyond what we can do. as humans.
I think that's important. Remember, we were speaking with Jason and Amanda on another video and talking about our youth and things, and how it's important that the youth feels confident enough to speak to people within our congregations about the issues they're going through, rather than just saying, "I made it through a Sunday morning, and I'm going to go back and carry all this junk again and the baggage that a lot of kids have and things." But you know, to come on a little bit and to bring Flowery in again, it's very often, I've heard time and again, it's all about the elder, and the little wifey, as we call them in Scotland, is somewhere in the background, and she doesn't even have a name. Half the time, this is Steve, and this is he's an elder, and this is the elder's wife, and it's almost like she doesn't exist, type thing like that. So how you know, in terms of your role and how you understand all that and supporting Steve, and I also know that you will deal with stuff that Steve doesn't deal with, type thing like that. So how do you go about doing that? How's that?
Got lots to say on that
Yeah.
issue. One, as far as the wifey, sometimes they think they can come to the wife to get to the elder.
Yeah.
And so you're a sounding board, you can listen and never say anything, never, you're always positive and loving and kind, but you never make any kind of decisions or anything. You do pass on to the whole eldership, not just your husband.
Yeah.
That there are these problems going on. So you can be a helping hand to the eldership, and then let them take care of it. But being just really positive and kind. Oh, you hit me on something else.
Because I'm not an elder. I haven't been an elder. I aspire to be an elder one day.
Oh, I know.
But I found myself in a leadership position within congregations, and there's been times where I just couldn't cope. I just wanted to. I can't deal with this anymore. And then Fumi
And he's
steps
there.
in.
Oh, it's
And-
huge. It's huge.
Which is absolutely priceless. Do you want to talk about that? Then we'll come back to what you were thinking.
I don't know that, but I think first and foremost, this is why you shouldn't have just one elder
Oh,
Yeah.
it
in the
should not,
congregation.
yes.
You need two or more.
Yeah. Three.
Not
would
only
be-
is that,
Yeah, so you can have a tiebreaker.
Yeah, you're right.
scripturally you need more than one.
Sure.
But it's very important because of the decisions that you have to make, and the role and the weight of the role. Then for support and that. And I think that the forefront is the eldership and the elders, and behind them, are the behind them to their side.
That's better. That's much better.
Not behind them, pushing them, but to the side, to their side, are their wives who are always there supporting, encouraging, even when you're tired, you want to go. You still have to be there to listen, because that's a part of you that is going through difficulties, having to endure whatever it is you're having to endure as a leader or as an elder, and as the wife. Sometimes you want to just step in there and deal with the situation, and you can't. And you just got to take that deep breath and communicate with the Father for wisdom and prudence and guidance
All the time.
Yes. That's true.
on what to do and how to deal with it, in supporting, either your husband or advising whoever it is that you need to go through this
The
channel
steps.
or that.
The step. Yeah.
Yes.
The thing that you said that I have seen change, the wifey, and we are always there to support and to pray continuously. But our wives have become an entity of their own, because we're there to support the elders, but also the church members, and we now meet and actually take over certain meals, certain initiatives that we really spearhead and help and are backing. So we've taken on roles ourselves as a group And it also lets the congregation know that we're the second in line, that they can come with their problems so that we can turn it over to the eldership. So we've got a very active wives
Indeed.
group,
Yeah.
elders.
And I will say that, Valerie has been a wonderful support. I could not do this job without her strength and her help at all. The eldership, our eldership is very careful that if something is confidential, it stays in the elder's
Yeah,
office. None of us go home and share conversations with our wives, certainly not specifically, or usually not even generally, because they can figure things out. But she can tell when I've had a very difficult night in an elders meeting, with a problem with a member, or a problem my member's having, or an issue that we're dealing with in the eldership. It just weighs heavily on me. And she brings me comfort and peace. We pray together. We sometimes maybe cry together, but it's without her to back me up, and the other elders' wives for their husbands, this would be an impossible job.
I think in my experience, in the UK there's not a lot of elders within our congregations,
Right.
for various, whole bunch of different reasons, and I find it really sad. That
It really is.
really sad, because to me, a congregation without elders is a congregation without real authority. In terms of, you mentioned adultery earlier, if somebody in a congregation was involved in adultery, who's got the authority to say you should be doing that? You could throw the Bible at them and say you should be doing that and things like that.
Sure.
But ultimately, when it comes to things like disfellowship and all that business, that has to come from our leadership to guide the congregation and say this is what we need to be doing. And I think in the UK, congregations have become comfortable without elderships. They're quite happy for one man, if you wish, in some places, to deal with everything. And I think that's heartbreaking.
It's an unfair burden for the preacher.
Yeah, and I think that the congregation your size, if you take away your eldership, it'd be absolute chaos, wouldn't it?
It would.
It just wouldn't function.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same.
How many members are in Red Bank?
We have about 325, 350 at this time, and so that's a lot of people to shepherd.
And that's Red Bank in Chattanooga in
That is
America.
that's just that's Red Bank alone, and it is that's without support from a lot of places, it would be impossible for us to do that. And as large as the congregation has gotten, if we were doing the things that the deacons are doing, we wouldn't have time to deal with the spiritual health of the congregation. So that's why we have set up ministry leaders and deacons that have particular ministries that they oversee, and we just kind of oversee them in general.
That's been my, for Fum and I, that's been our goal. Like, for example, when we started the Great Bar congregation, the goal was to grow and plant get elders appointed and then leave type thing. It didn't quite work out that way, but when we did leave, the appointed elders are now. When we came to Liverpool, again there was no eldership, but now there is an eldership in place, and that's part of the goal here. We are at Auden to eventually have that, and I think that a lot of congregations don't understand the importance of it, because, like you said, for years and years, been the preacher. The preacher is in charge of absolutely everything almost.
That's right.
But they don't see that the preacher is also busy doing the deacon's job, he's doing the counselling job, he's doing this job, he's doing somebody's garden, he's helping somebody out financially. People don't see the burden that carries with it, and all the responsibilities.
It just reminds me of when we were leaving Birmingham, going to leave great bar,
Yeah.
and you know, a couple of the men had said, "Oh, what do you do?" And and you give them the list. You can.
Yeah, but basically, when we were leaving, one of the guys said, I think I'd like to take over as the preacher role. Can you give me an idea of what you're doing? Write down what you're doing. So I gave him two A4 pieces of paper with the list of stuff, and he looked at it and he said, I wouldn't have time to do that. And I says, well, people don't recognise what you do, because none of us go around bragging, say I do this and do this and do that. But you know, there's a heavy load without an eldership, because somebody's got to do the stuff.
Somebody has to be the leader.
Yeah.
One really interesting thing is how an elder is elected at our church, because there's a significant vetting process by the elders, by the deacons, by the congregation itself. A significant several months go into it
Yeah, we have lessons, you know, about the qualifications of an elder.
from the ministers.
From the
certainly.
ministers, we instruct them to do that, and then what we do is we ask the congregation to nominate in writing, signed, men that they would like to have as elders over them. And then after receiving those nominations, we'll go and ask the individual that's been nominated if they desire to be an elder, because that's one of the qualifications.
Absolutely,
And then we give people 30 days, 2 weeks or 30 days after this, you know, just depends on the situation, how many people are involved. 30 days to, in writing, with a signed document, say this person is not qualified to be an elder for this reason. And so if there's if we get one of those letters, then we go back to the nominated person.
Yeah.
And
There has to be a scriptural reason.
It has
So
to be-
it's
it
not
has
like,
to- yeah.
oh, I go to dinner every week and he burns my dinner.
Yeah.
That's not a...
Yeah, or, you know, but the guy's a perpetual drunk, or the guy,
Wait, you didn't have to get
whatever the disqualifying factor is.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we try to be sure that we get the congregation involved in picking leadership, and then they have more faith, you know, in the eldership, knowing that they had a part in selecting the men that are leading them.
Because I found, and maybe you could come in a little bit here for me, with that if a congregation hasn't got a vision, you mentioned it earlier with painting and things, if you haven't got a vision in your head, then nothing's going to go to paper. And it's just my personal opinion, I think a lot of congregations are just going through the motions. They're just treading water, keeping home, just keeping the building open, that type of thing. But we spoke about this a while ago, that churches need vision, they need direction and things.
I think so. God has a vision, has a direction for us. He wants us to grow. He wants us to be mature. He wants us to be like Him. He wants us to display His glory. He wants us to reach out to others. And He wants us to be ready for when He comes to take us home. And I think that as Christians, we need to have that same vision as well. And we can't achieve all of that if we are just coming on a Sunday, go to, have the Lord's Supper, and then go home. Well, I could actually do that in my house on Zoom.
Yes.
And we have to see participate in the whole picture, rather than just being that tiny thread in there and saying, oh well, all I do is just come for the Lord's Supper, or all I do is just turn up for a Bible study. And I think this is where people valuing their role and valuing their Christianity and whose they are and who they are, and realizing their potential and their importance helps with that.
So would you say then that, as a leadership and eldership, and Flowery included in this, that you guys see the mission of God to go out and make disciples, yeah? And so if you guys see that, and then you're then passing that vision into the congregation, and you want the congregation to see that, and see the same passion that yes, worship is important, but being a Christian is more than just going to worship us in the morning.
Exactly.
Like you said, he wants us to become Christ-like more and more as we go along, but at the same time, there's people out there who are lost, and we need to be focusing on that as well.
I think
Go ahead now.
one is strategic planning.
Yeah.
Whether it is for the church or for the individual, but a strategic plan with the whole church, everybody, the minister, the elders, everybody has input, and you hash it, oh, we should be, having more members, we should get the word. You need to have that plan and say, what are your real goals and how are you gonna meet them? And that has helped an awful lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 4 years ago, before COVID, we rewrote our mission statement, which is the Great Commission. We made that our official mission statement. Then we set mission, vision, and values for the church. Okay, in this strategic plan. And right now, if we have a ministry that doesn't fall into that mission, vision, and values list that we have, we don't do it anymore, because it's not getting us where we want to go. And so the strategic plan is important for any church or organization.
It sets timelines too.
And timelines.
You just don't
Yeah.
lollygag around.
Yeah.
Yeah, the little kicker in that is that when we wrote all this down, one of the goals that we established was being having 500 members by a certain date. And then COVID came along and just totally threw that out. But, we were prepared to make adjustments too.
Yeah.
All of this is with the blessing and guidance of the Lord.
Yes, there we go.
All of it.
There we go.
Yeah, that's 100% dependent.
Yeah.
And, with the understanding that we're doing all this to bring honor and glory to Him, His name, and to get more people interested in following Him and loving Him and wanting to have a relationship with Jesus.
I love what you just said there, because I've said this for a long time, and some people have disagreed with me and argued with me, but I've said this for a long time now, that for too long it's about let's bring people to church instead of let's invite people in a relationship with Jesus. And it's been the church, and Jesus and everything else has been sort of back seat. When actually the whole thing is about relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just with the Father, Son and the Holy Spirit, but with each other as brothers and sisters. That's so important.
For too many years, the church has been the building, when
Yes.
the church is really the people, and that's
Correct.
where those relationships begin. You have a relationship with an individual, and then you teach them, and they develop a relationship with Jesus, and then they become part of the church, and that's how we follow what God wants us to really do.
Okay, well, thank you all for joining us. It's been an insightful, and I'm sure that people will be encouraged when they look at this when it goes on YouTube. But thank you again for joining us, and may God bless you and keep you safe until we see you again. God bless. Bye bye.